Welcome to the Del Walmsley Radio Show. Listen and grow as Del questions the status quo, encourages you to think differently, and empowers you to make a better life. Get ready as Del challenges core beliefs, seeks the truth, and reveals the roadmap to the lifestyle you really want. And now your host, multi-millionaire, national award-winning investor, CEO and founder of Lifestyles Unlimited, Del Walmsley.
Welcome to the Del Walmsley Radio Show, where the hype ends and the help begins. I'm your host, Del Walmsley, and as always, we're working on your financial freedom. Today, my friends, is Tell Del Tuesday, and we are lucky to have a guest with us today, Leland Hernandez. Leland, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Del. Appreciate you having me on.
Leland, I'm going to ask a lot of questions of you today, and I want to get your history and everything. But let's start backwards here. I want to ask you a question that I love to ask people that have been in the business of real estate, and you had a small stint of your life where you were working in commercial real estate. What is it about working in the business of real estate that has nothing to do, and why people coming out of working in real estate don't have any understanding of becoming wealthy and or retiring from real estate? Can you share that with us?
Yes, I can. So I started out with a tenant rep firm, which essentially what that means is that I would used to dial for dollars, cold calling companies trying to get their business by not ever talking to anybody, not ever introducing them, having no personal relationship, and saying, hey, let me sign you up to a 5-10-year lease in a commercial space so you can run your business. The difference is between what Lifestyles is and what being in the business is that essentially was just to get a job, to get my paycheck every week, and move on down the road and just keep hitting another tenant in place from the commercial side and getting the sale on that. With Lifestyles, it's very different because you actually have a long-term goal in place and in mind instead of just trying to continually, let me hit another sale. This time it's like, how is this going to replace my car payment? How is this going to replace my mortgage payment? How is this going to let me do something for my kids versus just, I need it to hit my numbers this week, this month?
That's great. Thanks. I appreciate that because I see it, and it always is interesting. And I think it must be interesting to people out there because people say the word real estate, Leland, and they assume that anything and everything to do with real estate's the same stuff. But really what we do here is completely different. I want to ask you to go ahead and share with us another question. It's a personal question. But I think what I'm always trying to do, Leland, is to connect someone with as many people that connect to the same life that they've gone through, challenges, good side, bad side, and so forth, so that they could go, aha, I don't care what that Del Walmsley guy says. He's just some wacko guy. But, hey, this guy's grounded just like I am. I want to ask you this question. You seem to have gone through quite a few different job changes over your life, way more than I ever did. And I wanted to ask you, what is it out there in our society today that stimulates people to move from company to company? Not only move from company to company, I think you actually move from career type to career type. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, so a little bit further into my background, the way that I was raised is my father owned his own company, small business, printing company, and he passed away a few days before he was going to sign the paperwork to where if he did pass away, we wouldn't have to sell the shares back and basically lose the company and the interest and passive income from my family. And so I was raised with that mindset of always trying to be entrepreneurial and doing things myself, but it kind of got ripped away from me. And so as I went from career to industry, I was always trying to find something that would allow me to have a steady income and continue to do what I want to do on the side that fulfills my dreams and ambitions, but also continuing to have the stability in my life that, you can provide for your family and do the things that most people don't really get the chance to, because I was one of those kids who had that and then it was taken away from me. And so that's kind of one of the driving things for me that is been the driving factor to go and search that out. And it wasn't until I met my wife that I finally had my eyes opened up to real estate.
That's a powerful why to get out of bed every day. I like that. How did you work in your real estate aspirations with your jobs as you were going through those different job descriptions that you have had over your life? Did you get started earlier trying to do something, or did you not do anything specific until you met Sharon and came to Lifestyles?
Sure. So I heard about lifestyles on the radio when I was an electrician, and I'm an electrician by trade now. I did that for about 7 years, and I heard it on the radio, listened to it. I was like, there's no way this is real, no way. Ended up meeting my wife, and I'm 32 right now, and I still wish if I'd done it when I first heard about it and I met my wife, we'd be 3-4 times ahead where we're at now. So it's just one of those things that I would, when I was on the road, I was able to do it on the side and say, okay, go buy this one house, do it here. Okay, now I've got enough. I've saved up. Let me go get another one. And that's just how we started it. One single house. That's where it started.
Gotcha. Well, Sharon, when you brought her in, you sort of insinuated she was interested in real estate also. How much of a driving factor was she in your success here with this?
She was a complete skeptic until we went to the 2-day. And then she was actually the one that was like, let's go full bore into this. And I kind of was the one who had to hold her back and be like, hey, I appreciate that, but we need to actually do something we're comfortable with because we still had jobs and we're trying to, make it work with what we had. And she actually inherited 4 properties, paid off in full from her grandfather, which was our seed money. But we didn't touch any of that until we did it all on our own money first. And so she was a very big driving factor, but I would say that I kind of had to she was the type A, and I was the one that had to put her on the leash in the yard and let her get tired and then say, okay, here's how it actually works. Here's what we can realistically do.
I like that you picked up my story about put them on the chain in the backyard. I guess you can relate to that.
Yes, I can.
It's hilarious being married to a type A. It's like, there's never enough. It's never large enough, fast enough, quick enough. And whatever it is, it's never good enough. And even if they love it to death, wow, that was incredible. I love it. But if we had one more, so I get that. Let's talk about going to the 2-day. Did you guys both go to the 2-day or just one of you? How did that work out?
So we did go at the same time, and we, again, like I mentioned, I was all ready to go, and I was actually probably more nervous than she was because, man, if this works out, this could be a really, really big, part of our adventure and our life story, and this is kind of the moment where it starts. But the whole time, my wife, she had her arms crossed, and I was just like, that's ridiculous. I don't believe that. There's no way. And then it just slowly, she'd be like, well, I think that's how it's done. I think that's how my property manager does it. And the questions finally, she started like, wait a second, maybe this is real. Maybe this can happen. And by the end of it, she was ready to go full bore, like I said. And I was kind of, I had to tame her in a little bit.
Start out with the first deal you did. What kind of a deal was it?
Yeah, so it was a single-family house that was in the Oak Cliff area of Dallas, which is the southern part of Dallas. And it was on a blast, and we actually, my wife ran the numbers on Quest and basically said, this is the one we're going to do, and we went for it, and there's already a tenant in place. We didn't have to do any rehab on it, and basically was for lack of better words, a turnkey house to where we essentially took over the mortgage and started, owning rental real estate for passive income.
Fly on the wall, what was the conversation between you and Sharon? Was that enough proof of concept, or did you need something else?
Oh, so that was proof of concept for us. We were like, okay, we just rinse and repeat exactly what we just did. We felt confident enough that we would be okay to then, start messing with whatever she had inherited. And when I say messing with, i.e. selling whatever she had, so we could take those gains and basically have our, a pot of money to go and reinvest that money that we didn't have because we were both making less than $35,000 a year at the time. So we were not even barely middle class. We were just out of college. And, we didn't have any money, but we had that little nest egg that she inherited. And we were like, you know what? This was for her to start her life with her, her family, me. And we went for it. And so that's what we did. And we're like, okay, let's start selling off and seeing what we can do from what she inherited.
So let's walk through the next transaction, just one at a time. What did we do next?
Sure. So what we did is we were worried about paying taxes, and you have a whole conversation about tripping over dollars to pick up dimes, but that's what our mindset was at the time. But what we did is we sold one of her properties, and we did a 1031 like-kind exchange, and we were able to purchase 3 brand new builds in 2020. Got them under contract, got them rented, and in the proper order, so that way we qualified every time we bought a new house and put a tenant in there. We were actually a stronger buyer. And we did that all throughout 2020. And we purchased 3 properties within 60 days. Thankfully, because of COVID, they gave an extension on 1031s at the time. And my wife had a baby in between house number 2 and 3.
So let's clarify a little bit more, and I apologize because, living within our group, we all seem to know all these terms like they mean everything. But out there in the real world, I'd have no idea what you mean by 3 new builds. What does that mean? What are those houses, apartments, trucks? What are you buying?
Sure. We bought 3 single-family homes. So these are, 1,200 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1-car, attached garage that were built in 2019. Came to market in 2020, and that's when we ended up picking them up. And they were in an up-and-coming neighborhood, and that's one reason we liked it. And it was within our price range for what we could afford at the time, and the rents and everything made sense. And so that's what I meant by the new builds is they're brand new houses that came to market.
So no one's ever lived in them. So, that parallels my story. If you've ever heard my story, I bought 1 rent house when Fannie Mae was taking back foreclosures and totally remodeling them and selling them back on the market. And after I bought 1, my broker said, "You want any more?" And I said, "I'll take 3 more." And within 60 days, I'd bought 4 houses, and that totally changed my life. And I knew from that moment, I knew I could retire because now I had the formula. It made all the sense in the world. It was so simple. When you got to that point, did it seem like the formula was baked in?
Oh, it's we kind of kick ourselves in the foot because we thought we had done all this amazing stuff. We were sitting high on the hog, and we're like, man, we are awesome. And we kind of stopped for a year. Now, granted, COVID happened and we had a newborn, but it's one of those that, man, if we had just kept going and pursuing on the same track that we were, I can't imagine where we'd be at today.
Okay. These new ones, okay, in the first one you had to evict somebody and then you had to put in a new tenant. Now you had 3 more tenants you had to put in. One of the things that a lot of people fear is leasing a house. I myself have never had a house on the market more than a week because once I put that sign in the yard with the amount of rent, and my rent's lower than everybody else's and my house is made ready better than everybody else's, they leased instantly. Now with brand new houses, unless you really messed up the price to rent it, there must have been people crawling over the top of themselves to get into there.
Yes, it was. So that's a funny story. So we literally just went to Walmart and got one of the for rent signs, put our number on it, and I put it out there. And I was about halfway back home, and my wife said, "Turn around, take the sign down." I was like, "What happened? What's wrong?" She said that by the time, and this is probably 30 to 45 minutes, she'd already gotten 100 different phone calls on this house, and just from a sign in the front yard. No advertisement, no nothing else. And we were like, there's no way this is going to work. And, I mean, she was like, I can't handle this many phone calls. Go take it down. We'll find somebody out of it who left a voicemail.
It's funny. I love that story. I love you for telling that story because I had the exact same experience when I did it. And one of the things I did by the time I was on my 3rd or 4th or 5th house is I got all squirrely about it. I said, you know what I'm going to do? I sent my number to one of the people that worked with me, and I said, you answer the phone, and every time somebody calls, you call me and tell me that they called while I was out there making sure it was ready to go. So we'll be right back with Leland Hernandez and the Del Walmsley Radio Show.
Teaching you with a roadmap to creating the lifestyle you really want. Keep listening. The Del Walmsley Radio Show returns in moments.
I was at a seminar one time and a guy was sitting up there and he was saying, what you really need is you need the young, aggressive entrepreneur people to go out there and take that money and invest it with them. I walked up to the front of the stage and I said, hey, I'm that guy you're talking about that should be mentoring these people on how to do this. The guy goes, sir, we don't allow solicitation. And I said, no, you don't understand. I'm here to tell you I'm exactly the guy you were telling them to look for. And I'm willing to help them for nothing. And the guy goes, if you don't stop soliciting, I'm going to have security come and get you. And I said, I can see you're a scam. I'll just leave. Everything I said had gone through the intercom. So I walked out of the seminar room, and 200 people followed me. And that's how Lifestyles was started.
Are you ready to get up and follow Dell? Join us today at lifestylesunlimitedworkshop.com.
You're hearing the Del Walmsley Radio Show. Want more life-changing knowledge? Access our podcast and listen on demand at lifestylesunlimited.com under the radio tab. Now your host, Del Walmsley.
Welcome back to the Del Walmsley Radio Show. With me here today on Tell Del Tuesday is Leland Hernandez. Let's talk about the next project that you went after. Now you really got some proof of concept. You know this is 1031 works. You've got all this money you can get your hands on. You've now got 4 rent houses. The world starts to really look fun when you start to win, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And, kind of what you were saying. So what we did after that is we basically sold the remaining properties that we had, including our personal house, and we went and bought a small apartment complex.
Man, that's a lot of money. And you took that plunge of 2 more houses and your own personal house to buy an apartment. That is a giant next step. So I guess proof of concept is way well done. You're ready to go. Tell us about the fly on the wall conversation, you and the wife, that got that kind of guts up. I guess you're younger. You figured, if you failed, you can come back and fix it later. But other than being young, how the heck and what did you say to come up with that much guts to do that kind of stuff that you've never done, to go from single family to multifamily now?
Sure. So it was once we got those, the 3 from the 1031s, rented out and stabilized, we were like, okay, this is, we're doing it. And then we were kind of raising our child for the first year with COVID. And once everything kind of lifted, we were like, you know what? We did that with 1 of her properties, and we still have 3 others that we can tap into. We just said, we're going to swing for the fences, and we felt pretty confident in our own ability just from everything that we've done. And we're very, very conservative in the way that we do everything. And it was like, if we're going to do this, just jump in with both feet. And just through the education and learning and listening to you on the podcast and the radio, it's like that's the way to go, is to get an apartment that you can own by yourself. And that way you can control everything, to the best of your ability. And if you want to throw third-party management on there, that's great. You can. Or if you want to do it yourself, you can. And I think I actually learned with single family that I am not a good property manager, but I am a very good asset manager. That's what I like to do. And that was kind of the way that we figured we were going to go. And by the grace of God, everything worked out, that we were able to raise the funds that we needed. And we still remember when we were in the house that we're renting now, signing that loan, and it was the largest dollar amount I had ever seen with my name on that paper. And I'm not going to say we were very, very, very scared, but very excited about what the future held.
Did you go back to the trough of education, knowing that you're going from single to multi and there's going to be some different challenges? Did you go back into Lifestyles and dig up the education for multifamily before you did it?
Oh, I absolutely did. And so since we had, like I said, a newborn, we had weird hours at the time, so I was up between 4 and 5 every morning. And once I got the baby situated with my wife and whatever, I had a few hours before I'd start work. So I actually would get on about 4:30 or 5 and start doing all the classes online before I'd go into work. And I did that for about 8 months straight. So I tried to look at or listen to or read everything I could that Lifestyles had to offer. So I felt very comfortable, or as comfortable as I could be without physically doing it. And so education was incredibly vital, and everything that I know about apartments was only through LU. And to this day, it has absolutely changed our lives.
Would you say it's a lot of information, or was more information you thought that you needed to know just to go do this, or how did you see that?
Yeah, so I would say it's probably more than you need to know to get started, because there are a bunch of classes that go way in depth on taxes or any sort of little segment you can imagine that has to do with ownership. And some of it just didn't apply to me quite yet because I'm not to that level. But yeah, there is a ton of information that is absolutely relevant. It just may not be relevant to you yet, or you may not understand it yet and why it's relevant to you. But yes, there is a ton of information that I think I could probably go back through it all again and learn probably twice as much now that I know what I know now.
Did you change mentors when you changed approaches?
So, yes, I had to change from a single-family mentor over to a multifamily mentor, and I was looking within DFW, and just the numbers weren't working for what we were looking for, and we were looking for about a year to 18 months, and finally we started to look outside of Texas, and we ended up in Tennessee where we purchased our IRO, and I went to another mentor for a national multifamily mentor, and every single one of them have an incredible wealth of knowledge. And I think it's just you kind of have to figure out which one you get along with, or you have a good way of communicating. And thankfully, I've been able to find the ones that work with us and kind of understand how we operate or how we like to operate. And then they also know how to tell me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. Sometimes it hurts, and sometimes it makes me excited. It just depends on the situation.
No doubt. That is so true in life in every aspect. So were you surprised, being that this was originally a Texas-based company 35 years ago when I started this, how wide our reach was when you looked out across the country?
Absolutely, and I will say I actually was trying to stay in Texas as hard as I could. I'm a Texas boy, and I take pride in that. And it's one of those. I was like, man, but they keep saying, across the nation, everywhere we got 50,000 plus members, and it wasn't until I truly looked outside of Texas that I actually understood how the breadth and how far reaching Lifestyles is. So yeah, it was a big surprise, but I didn't actually feel it until I started to look outside of Texas.
Now that you own this IRO apartment complex, and by the way, how many units was the apartment complex?
It's 24.
24 units, okay. So let's talk about operating this property. Operating apartments is totally different than operating single-family houses. What came up in the operations of this that you learned major lessons on?
Ooh, that we've only owned it 8 months, so I'm still learning, and I do have third-party management in place. But that being said, the biggest thing that I am dealing with are renovations and how to manage renovations, and basically the disrepair that's happening just from lack of general maintenance over the years. That's what I'm really dealing with right now. And
have you had a situation where you needed to call a consultant and ask a question about, hey, this has happened, what should I do in this situation, or not?
Not yet. Thankfully, I have an amazing property manager who's out there, and they are on top of everything kind of when it happens. The only thing that did happen that I didn't really know what I was going to have to do was they had a big freeze come through this winter, and basically half of the apartment units lost water. And what happened was the pipes actually froze. They did not bust, though, and as of 2 months later, we still haven't seen any damage from a busted pipe. But that was something that I was about to have to get ready to deal with insurance and how to fix this, and I was getting ready, but thankfully it didn't come to that.
Boy, you dodged a bullet on that one, there's no doubt.
Yes.
We had all kinds of freeze damage that we had to deal with, and, of course, the repairs and then the insurance claim after that and all that. So, yeah, you dodged a big one there. Let's move on then. Is this the last project you've done, or did you do any more projects after this?
So right now, that is the latest one that I've done. Without getting into too much detail, I'm an aspiring lead, and I've got something going on that, but can't really talk about it right now.
Right. So you've decided to move up into the next level, which is to start being a lead investor, which means you're going to syndicate a project, and we can't discuss that project by law on the radio. So we're just bringing that point up. You're making the next logical step in the progression of a real estate investor.
Yep.
So let's ask this: what's the family plan now? I mean, you've gone through a lot. You're making a lot of big moves and changes, and you're still fairly young. How old are you now?
I'm 32, and I have my wife's permission to say this, that she is 30.
I like that. Did you get that in writing?
No, but I do have a video of it somewhere. I know that for a fact.
All right, great. Well, we're glad to know that you're safe on that. But, yeah, that's really, really young to be this far along in your career. What's the family plan at this point? Yeah,
so the whole intention of this is we wanted to provide a lifestyle for myself and my wife, but also for our daughter, that is my wife's words. She doesn't ever have to depend on a man for anything. She can come to mom and dad She knows that she at least have someone to have her back, regardless that we would anyways. But this way we actually have the means to do it. If she wants to go and play, piano for the rest of her life, she can. If she wants to do what we're doing, great. If not, we'll support her any way we could. And by just seeing what my wife's parents have done with real estate, we knew it was possible. We just didn't know how to do it, and now we know how to do it. And so the plan is actually, as of yesterday, I put in my 2 weeks notice, and I will be real estate full-time by April.
Wow. That's quite a move. Quite a move. That's a gutsy move. When you give up that W-2, that's the big one.
It is. But, that's what the whole plan was, is we had a long-term plan in place. And the apartment that we own, as of last week, we finally hit my replacement take-home pay dollar amount that we needed to hit. And we're only about halfway through the renovations on this property. So it's by when this is all, the dust settles, I'm going to be sitting a lot better off than if I had stayed with my W-2 job.
So you bought your first property in 2018, was that right?
Yes, I believe so.
So we got 5 years under the belt here. Give me an idea of what's happened to your net worth, all right, in that period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. So without getting into very specific numbers, we started out with an inherited properties and everything. And when we started from that to where we are today, we've tripled our net worth. Wow.
And people save their whole lifetimes to come up with 1X, and you in 5 years have made that 3X. That's amazing. That's very good. Very, very good. Let's go back and let's talk about people around you. I'm always curious in this part of the story. People that work with you, do they think you're crazy, that you're going to quit your job and go do this now, or what?
Well, they're sending the email today so that I'm not going to be there, for an extended period of time. So I'm curious to see what it is. But some of them do know what me and my wife have going on, and they're skeptical at first. But then once I kind of explain it in a little bit more detail and how it works, they're like, "Oh my gosh! Like, how do I get into it? How do I do that?" And, the biggest thing I have to try and tell people, it's not a get-rich scheme. It's you do have to have something to start with. It doesn't have to be much, because we didn't start with much either. And that's kind of where, they're like, I want to go on vacation, I want to do this, or I want to go do that. I'm like, we sacrificed that and sold our house because we wanted to have our dreams quicker rather than later, and we were willing to sacrifice for it.
Very good points, all of them. So, looks like you've made the right decisions. You're in the right place, and looks like you're going to be even more successful in the future. Leland, thank you for coming on today. Really appreciate it, and thank you for sharing your story.
Absolutely, and thank you for everything you've done, because if you hadn't started this, there's no way we would be where we're at, so thank you.
Thank you. For the rest of you out there, remember this. Leland gave up all the short-term gratification so that he could have not some money, but to have this incredible lifestyle. You're going to have to make that choice yourself. Do you want instantaneous gratification today, a new car, vacation? Or do you want to be able to invest in the future and end up with not some money, but the lifestyle? Have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow.
The information and opinions you hear on the Del Walmsley radio show are those of the host, Del Walmsley, his guests, and his callers. The Del Walmsley show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented on the Del Walmsley show constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.